Good afternoon. We will start with short statements by the Secretary General and the Prime Minister, and then they will be happy to take a few questions. Secretary General.
Prime Minister Kvirikashvili, it's a great pleasure and a great honor to welcome you once again back to NATO headquarters. And I think that your visit here just reconfirms the very strong partnership we have developed over several years, and also the friendship and the partnership you and I have developed over the years, meeting in different formats in Brussels, in Tbilisi, and also other places, and always expressing strong support together to enhancing the partnership between NATO and Georgia. And I would also like to start by thanking Georgia and the soldiers in the Quick Reaction Force in Resolute Support in Afghanistan for the way they reacted very quickly in defense of the German consulate that was attacked in Mashhad, and where the Georgian soldiers were very brave and professional in defending the consulate, and luckily no one was wounded and there were no casualties. So this is just yet another example of how Georgia contributes to our shared security and how Georgia contributes to NATO, and the important role and the professionalism of your soldiers when they conduct operations in NATO in resolute support in Afghanistan. NATO's partnership with Georgia is something we really appreciate, and we attach very great importance to. And it's a partnership which we have developed over many years. And we discussed during our meeting how we can strengthen that partnership and how we can develop it further. The North Atlantic Council visited Georgia in September. There we met with you and many of your ministers. And we also assessed the progress we are making when it comes to the implementation of the substantial package, NATO-Georgia package, which we agreed at the Warsaw Summit. I would also like to congratulate you on the elections in Georgia, your reappointment as Prime Minister, but also the way you conducted the elections in Georgia. Free and fair elections conducted in a way which has been highly recognized by the international community, and it just expresses the progress you are making on the reform path, and NATO will continue to support you in implementing those reforms, and we will continue to provide both political support and practical support for Georgia. We will provide strong political support for your independence, for your territorial integrity and sovereignty, and we will continue to provide practical support for both the importance of implementing reforms, but also to continue to conduct exercises to make sure that we fill and strengthen the joint training center, and also that we make sure that the NATO-Georgia Commission continues to be an important platform and tool for political dialogue, but also for practical cooperation. As we have stated many times before, Georgia has all the practical tools for membership. We will continue to support you in your aspirations and in your efforts to strengthen your ties with NATO, and we are here to provide that kind of support and that kind of help. So we will also continue to work with Georgia on the challenges we see in the broader Black Sea region. We have made an assessment of the security situation in the Black Sea region. And of course, Georgia, being a littoral state to the Black Sea, is one of the countries which are important for NATO to work closely with, because the Black Sea region is of strategic importance for the whole NATO alliance, and the partnership with Georgia is an important part of that. So once again, I welcome you to NATO. It's always a great pleasure to meet with you, and I look forward to continue to cooperate with you and with your government and the ministers that you had with you in your delegation today. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. It's always a pleasure to be back here in Brussels in NATO headquarters and to discuss various aspects of our very important strategic partnership. Last time we have met in September in Tbilisi, when you and the allied ambassadors were visiting Georgia, and the NAC visit was another clear demonstration of NATO's commitment to Georgia's Euro-Atlantic aspirations. And I would like to thank you personally for your very strong engagement and support to our NATO membership process. It is essentially important that my visit, my first official visit after Georgia's October parliamentary elections, is in Brussels. It is a good opportunity for me to meet with our closest friends and partners, both in EU and NATO. Citizens of Georgia gave us the mandate to carry on the reforms and policies that we have been implementing over the years. The results of the elections also demonstrate that NATO integration is a firm national choice of our people, and our government is committed to deliver upon these expectations. At the meeting with the Secretary General, we discussed our way forward in Georgia's NATO integration, as well as the implementation process of the Warsaw Summit decisions on Georgia. In Warsaw, the allies once again underlined that Georgia has all the practical tools to prepare for membership, and we will continue making the full use of these tools in order to move closer to NATO membership. As for practical cooperation, we remain committed to the implementation of substantial NATO-Georgia package. We highly appreciate support of the member and partner states in this regard. Thanks to their engagement, we have made significant progress in SNGP implementation. We have a common understanding with the Secretary General that Georgia and the Alliance will continue allocating all necessary resources towards particular projects of SNGP and the new practical ways of cooperation agreed in Warsaw. All these initiatives help to strengthen Georgia's defense capabilities, resilience, and help us to prepare for NATO membership. We have also discussed the regional security environment and challenges that we face. We all agree that security of the Black Sea region is essential for the common Euro-Atlantic security. Georgia welcomes NATO's initiatives regarding Black Sea security. We are confident that this process will further strengthen security of Georgia and will have a significant positive effect in the regional context as well. On our part, we as an aspirant country are ready to contribute to the allied efforts aimed at strengthening Black Sea security. During the meeting, we have underlined that Georgia, as a reliable partner and an aspirant country, will continue its contribution to NATO's ongoing resolute support mission in Afghanistan. We have discussed the situation on Georgia's occupied territories and ratification of so-called agreement between Russia and Sukhumi regime on creating the joint military force. This illegal action flagrantly violates the core principles of international law. We highly appreciate the NATO's steadfast support for Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We are also grateful for NATO's unanimous and unwavering support that Russia should fulfill its international obligations vis-à-vis Georgia and withdraw its military forces from the territory of Georgia. I would like to thank you personally, Secretary General, for your continuous support for Georgia's integration, further integration into NATO. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have time for a few questions.
Georgian Public Broadcaster, Mrs. Secretary General, I have three topics. First, you mentioned about Black Sea region security. We want to hear more, if it is possible, about involvement of Georgia, for example, formats and so on. Second, Russia today signed a decree approving Russia's new foreign policy concept, and there is talk about NATO expansion, future expansion, and it is considered by Russia as a threat. What is your main message? And third, upcoming NATO summit in Brussels in 2017, what Georgia should wait for. You always tell us during the interviews that don't concentrate only on summits, but still want to hear from you. Thank you very much for sharing light on these three issues.
First, on the Black Sea region, we are working with Georgia in addressing and assessing the security situation in the Black Sea region. That's something we do regularly in the different meetings we have with Georgia on different levels. Our military committee will visit Georgia. The plan is to do it early next year, and I expect them also to then discuss and address the security situation in the Black Sea region. And also the committee of the deputy permanent representatives at NATO will meet with Georgia next year to discuss our partnership, our cooperation, but part of that is also to, of course, address the security situation in the Black Sea region. Because, as the Prime Minister said, the security and the stability in the Black Sea region is important for the whole of Europe and, of course, for NATO. So this is one of the reasons why I so much appreciate the close partnership with Georgia, because that's one way to contribute to stability in the Black Sea region. NATO is, of course, concerned about the significant Russian military buildup in the Black Sea region, especially in Crimea. And one of the issues we addressed at our summit in Warsaw in July was, of course, the increased presence of Russian forces in the Black Sea region, and we decided also to have what we call tailored forward presence in the southeast of the alliance, which is also then relevant for the Black Sea region. So we are constantly assessing, constantly adapting to the security challenges we see in the Black Sea region, and we appreciate very much the dialogue with Georgia on this, and I expect that dialogue to also take place when the military committee meets in Georgia early next year. The second question, NATO enlargement is something which has contributed to stability and peace in Europe. NATO enlargement is something which has been an important building block together with EU enlargement to create a Europe whole, free and at peace. And we will continue to strive for that. And I think it's extremely important to underline that every nation, including Georgia, has, of course, the right to decide its own path, including what kind of security arrangements it wants to be part of. So whether Georgia is going to become a member of NATO or not is something which is up to Georgia and NATO allies to decide. No one else has the right to intervene or try to interfere in such a process. And NATO is a defensive alliance. Everything we do is proportionate and defensive, and no one, we don't pose any threat to no one because we are a defensive alliance. And again, Georgia is an independent sovereign nation, and therefore the aspirations of Georgia to join NATO is something everyone should respect, and no one should try to intervene or to interfere in those aspirations. The last question was about the NATO summit. Yeah, I would just say that We have decided to have a summit next year, but that will be a summit with a smaller format than normal, because it's a summit which will provide the platform for the new elected president, for the incoming president, President-elect Donald Trump, to meet with NATO. We had something similar back in 2001 when Bush was newly elected. Then he met actually here in this building at a small summit, which we then convened. And we had something similar again in 2009. So it's too early to say when the summit is going to take place, and it's too early to say exactly anything about the formats. But this is going to be most likely be a summit with not many meetings, because there's one main purpose, and that is to have a meeting between NATO and the incoming US president.
One last question, Rustavitu.
Rustavitu Tamara, Secretary General, you always talking that NATO not only military union, this is union of democratic values. So what do you think, how important for Georgia to have critical media? I mean Rustavitu case, because we are still waiting court final decision. Thank you.
Free media and the freedom of speech is a core part of any open democratic society. And NATO's core values are democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. And of course, free media is part of democratic society. When it comes to this special case, then this is an ongoing court case. And I think it is important to now leave to the courts to decide on the legal issues. But it is, of course, important that the rule of law is fully applied and fully respected. And NATO attaches great importance to the rule of law, which is one of our core values. The Prime Minister told me that the government will continue an inclusive dialogue with the opposition and the civil society, and I welcome that. And the Prime Minister has also strongly underlined the importance of strengthening the democratic institutions in Georgia, and I also congratulated him not only on the election victory, but also that the elections in Georgia were conducted in a free and fair way, which has obtained as a strong international recognition. Yeah.
Thank you, Secretary General. Once again, I would like to mention why NATO is important for Georgia, because this is a family with shared values and principles. And of course, for Georgia, it matters a lot. For Georgia, the decision to build democratic state is irreversible. For Georgia, the decision to move Georgia towards this family, again with institutions in full compliance with European Western standards, is very important. It is a strategy defined by the Georgian nation, and as Secretary General mentioned, this is a sovereign decision of Georgia. And I would like to touch the issue of new strategy of Russia. Of course, on one hand, there is an expression of willingness to normalize relations with Georgia in the areas possible, and of course we join that desire. But on the other hand, there is talk about new realities in Georgia, about new independent states, which can never be acceptable for Georgian people and Georgian government, and any desire to normalize bilateral relations between Russia and Georgia should be based on the respect of Georgia's territorial integrity in internationally recognized borders, and based on the respect of sovereign decisions of Georgian nation to be a member of one or another family. And the decision is clear, as I already mentioned. On the media freedom, I would like to echo your comments. Media freedom is fundamental for Georgia. I should mention that just several years ago, we had only 3 nationwide channels, unfortunately managed by the administration of the government. Today we had one of the most successful reforms. It is called the digital switchover reform, where we have more than 40 channels nationwide, and the registering new TV station only takes 10 days, and there is no licensing requirements. There is only very technical process of authorization. So it takes only maximum 10 days to register a new nationwide TV station. But on Rustavi 2, again, as it was mentioned, this is a court case. On our side, we will ensure maximum transparency of the court process, and again, notwithstanding of the result of the outcome of this court process, any attempt to intervene in the editorial policy of independent TV stations will be excluded from our agenda. This is very important to note. And by the way, we have public broadcasting representative next to you, as I already mentioned, and they are not less critical than other independent stations, which shows, again, the degree of freedom of media in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press point. Thank you.